you know, this type of car is a car that's in a lot of sims, and by that I mean it is the basic stripped out starter. Oops, I guess we got 4 gears. Hit it to the wall. Woo. Oh. Well, let's start over. We'll start over. This is Raceroom. I'm MoonieGT, and today we're looking at 2 very important cars for Raceroom. Alright, well today we're going to take a look at 2, I think, very important cars for Raceroom. And no, it's not the new electric race car that everyone's been abuzz about. But we're going to look at the Aquila CR1 and the Formula Junior in Raceroom. The reason we're looking at these 2 cars is because they're free. They're part of the free content that everyone has access to in Raceroom. So if you're unaware, Raceroom is, I guess it's labeled free to play, and that's true. You can play Raceroom for free. You get a collection of tracks and cars. I'll put those on the screen now. But the vast majority of the content is content that you'll need to purchase either individually or as a part of a pack of content. Buying packs of content is the cheapest way to do it. You get a discount for doing that. And also you should really buy VRP from the developer website and then go and buy your content and not buy it directly from the Raceroom store. That's the way to get the best discount, and I'll try to remember to link that in the description as well. But back to this, why are we driving the Aquila CR1? Well, the Aquila CR1 and the Formula Junior that we're going to get to in a bit have been recently updated and kind of dragged into the future because they're both now using updated physics, changes to the tire model and stuff. So I actually test drove this car 6 weeks ago or so, I think now, because I was looking for cars to race in one of our Friday free-for-all races in the community. And for that race in particular, I was trying to find content that it was free so that everyone who wanted to come race with us could do it. So we raced a bunch of cars around this track. We're at Portimao. This is also one of the free tracks that you get with Raceroom. And we had a lot of fun in those races. We ended up racing some prototypes, the Canard R52, which is like a little hatchback car, and what else did we race? I can't even remember. But along the way in my testing to set up that event, I tried out the Aquila CR1, and at the time I didn't really like it. It just didn't feel quite right. It wasn't all that enjoyable to drive. But I'm happy to say now that they've updated the physics, and it feels more in line with, you know, how Raceroom feels. And some people like Raceroom, some don't. For me, this is probably my favorite racing sim. I love just the wide variety of cars and tracks that are on offer. You do have to buy them if you want them all, but I'm happy to do so because I really enjoy what this sim does. And every race sim is different. Some people have different tastes and like different things, but this really clicks with my mind and what I want out of a racing sim. And the cars, for the most part, seem to react the way I expect them to react based upon my real-world track driving experience. So this is the Aquila CR1. Let's talk about it a little bit because this is a car that I knew nothing about. This is a car that's made in the Netherlands. It is a bespoke, purpose-built race car. It's also used, I think, for track days and maybe some racing instruction, but it's a really cool car that it looks like a prototype. I think inside and out, it looks like a prototype, but it's really more accurately a GT spec car. And its power to weight ratio sets it between a GT4 and a GT3. So despite its, you know, really kind of menacing prototype look, it's something less than a GT3 car. So this version of the CR1 is using a 300 horsepower V8, and it weighs, I think, around 900 kilograms. So the power to weight isn't insane in this car, but what you get is a very purpose-built race car. This car has, you know, fully adjustable suspension. It has an air jack system. You know, it's got the locking hubs on the wheels, and I'm trying to think what else. Traction control. It's a very fancy purpose-built race car, really. they will sell you one of these cars for, I think, around $150,000. I could be wrong. It's somewhere in that ballpark. So this is not an inexpensive track car by any means, but it's a legitimate race car. They do race in various racing series across Europe. I think they've won numerous races, and it's very well designed from what I understand. I think there are 8 cotter pins holding on the entire bodywork, and it said two people can completely remove the bodywork on this car in under a minute, so you can quickly get to suspension bits and everything else to work on the car, make changes, make tweaks as you need to set the car up for an event. So it's meant to be, you know, just a very accessible kind of track car, race car thing, which is really cool. And I just love how this looks and feels like a prototype, but it's not. It's really just a GT car. But anyways, I'm gonna set a quick lap time in this, and then if you want, you should jump in, give this car a shot at Portimao. We're at the GP layout, I believe, the full layout, and set your own lap time and see how you do. If you haven't driven this car, you should. And if you've driven this car before, you should drive it again, because like I said, it's been updated, and now I think it feels better. It just feels, I don't know, it just feels like the rest of the newer Raceroom content, I guess. And it's a car that I like. I like this pace. I think 300 horsepower is a good amount of power for any race car, because I tend to like slower cars.
57.19. Sector 3 years.
But in real life,
off your best.
Oh. Now in real life, you can get.
This lap.
Thank you, Kuchi. In real life, the Aquila will sell you this car in numerous configurations, which is also cool. The baseline car comes with, I think it's a BMW 4-liter V8 that makes around 300 horsepower. And then there's a couple different LS motor offerings. The LS motor series or family, if you're not familiar, are Chevy engines that are usually debuted in Corvettes. But you can get it with an LS1 that makes around 350 horsepower. Or is it an LS3? I can't even remember. There's too many LS motors. And then I think you can get 450 horsepower or like 550 horsepower, somewhere thereabouts. I could be off slightly. But they have different versions of the car, depending on how much speed you need or what series you're running in, I guess. But in Raceroom, we get the 300 horsepower one, which is kind of the baby Aquila, which I think this car debuted in real life around 2008. I'm not sure when it came out in Raceroom. I guess I imagine it was one of the original cars. But anyways, I keep yapping. We're gonna stop yapping and start lapping. So I'm gonna try to set it's not gonna be the best lap in the world. It's just gonna be a lap to give you an idea of the pace of the car. And then you guys should go try it yourself. I'll be back.
just done.
All right, well, that wasn't a great lap, but that's going to do for now. So let's go check out the Formula Junior and see how it does. Okay, now we're in the Formula Junior. Now this is a very important car, I think, for multiple reasons. One of which we already touched on, and that's that it's one of the free cars in Raceroom. So this is one of the cars that someone who's just trying out Raceroom for the first time will likely drive. And so you need to make sure that any of the free content that you're putting out there for people to try really kind of represents your brand, right? So it's definitely important from that aspect, but it's also important because I think the Formula car is such an important car in sim racing because it really is one of the cars that's a good learning tool.
We need to watch these track limits.
It's where you're supposed to kind of hone your skills in real life racing, right? So many drivers come up through various ladder series that include cars like this. So again, I drove this car before the update when I was doing my testing for my community event and was kind of put off by it. And now with the update, it still feels a little foreign to me, if I'm honest. The Aquila, I think, definitely felt better to me. It was enjoyable. This is more, I think, my issue with Formula cars in general, and not so much the Formula car, not this particular car. I don't know that it's an issue I have with Raceroom per se. It's just these Formula cars are always tricky. They're relatively low grip tires. They slide and roll around, not roll. They slide and like yaw around a lot because they got so much rotation in them. But these cars are really meant to teach you to drive smoothly and to keep momentum going. That's, I think, probably chief among the goals of what this car is supposed to do. And on that front, I think this car succeeds. This is definitely a car that you do need to be smooth with in order to squeeze any kind of pace out of. And so from that standpoint, I think they're doing a good job here. They being Raceroom, done a good job here crafting their Formula Junior here. It just makes this car, it's a nervous kind of car for me to drive. If you're a much smoother driver than I am, which wouldn't be too hard, then I think you'd be just fine here. But again, these are my very first laps basically driving this car, and I'm talking and stuff and missing the corners completely. But it's an interesting car, and
We need to watch these track limits.
driving these Formula cars in VR is always just a wonderful experience because you can just see so well. And I love watching the suspension articulate, you know, as we go over bumps and things. It's always an enjoyable experience. But anyways, yeah, so this, I'm trying to remember the stats off my head. I want to say it's around 150 horsepower and 545 kilograms, if I'm remembering correctly. I'm close, I think, if I'm off. Oh, gosh. But, so the performance of this car it's not slow. It's not as fast as the Aquila, but it'll still move for sure. And by the time we get to the straightaway, it'll put up some pretty good speed. But so what I'm going to do now, whoa, is try to set a quick lap and give you an idea of the pace and give you something that you can go proudly show how much faster you are in this Formula Junior than I am, because boy, I'm kind of struggling with it, honestly. So I feel like maybe my last thought on this car is it's not that I don't think you could learn some very important driving lessons in this car, but gosh, it kind of feels so slippery. And I'm not sure how much I like how slippery and yawy it is. And by yaw, I mean rotating about kind of me on a flat plane. It's not pitching and rolling, it's just yawing a lot. It's got so much rotation, which is a good thing, really. If a car doesn't rotate, then I'd complain about that too. So this is going to be a Goldilocks and the Three Bears kind of thing, I think, where we blow this corner again. My goodness. But you should test out the Formula Junior and the Aquila and let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. But yeah, I'm gonna get to it and see if I can set something resembling my best lap, and we'll I'll let you know how it goes at the end.
That lap time was 1:59.04.
Okay, so I've spent some time lapping this Formula Junior, and it's a handful. I have to say, this is a car that demands smoothness and demands proper driving technique, which I think means it does exactly what it's meant to do. This is a car to learn skills for driving and racing, to become a better driver. This is not a car that will hide your flaws. If you know, lift-off oversteer is present, if you lock up the brakes and mess up your gear change, you'll pay for it. This is all about really smooth, precise driving. That, I think, is the kind of driving that infuriates a lot of sim racers, because you just have to be perfect in this car. I feel like you've got to be really smooth and good and intentional, deliberate. Throw in other string of adjectives there. This is not a car that you can just, I guess, it's mess around in. Even though it's the junior in the Formula ranks, it is a very precise car. It's not a beginner car. It's a car that I think more experienced drivers should use to practice being smooth and being precise. And I think because this car feels the way it does, and that it's so punishing for your mistakes, that I think a lot of sim racers will write it off and say, oh, this is inaccurate, or oh, this is a terrible car. And you know, to each your own, but this is a car that will, I think, make you a better driver if you spend some time in it. If you really work on being smooth with your inputs, which is so important in any car, that you'll become a better driver. I think that's the biggest compliment I could give this car, I think. But I can see this being frustrating for some people, and people not wanting to take the time to get better in this car. But the things you learn in this car and being smooth should carry over into any car, because these same techniques should be used in all those other cars that cover up your mistakes and flaws. And that if you can master this car, I think you'll become a better sim racer in any car. So
lap time was 2:01.23.
Thank you, Gucci. But thank you for coming along, and do go check out the Aquila CR1 and the Formula Junior and Portimao. Portimao is an amazing track. I'm MoonieGT. I'll see you next time.